Alright, this is going to be my disassembly video for the Heritage Rough Rider 22 long rifle and 22 Magnum single action revolver made by Heritage Manufacturing. This is going to be a detailed strip. Basically I'm going to break it down to the point where during normal cleaning you really wouldn't have to do this, but every once in a while you might want to do it, especially for revolvers. You really don't have to, but the reason I'm actually doing it is because I actually broke a part, or somebody I know broke a part for me. It's actually the cylinder hand spring. There's a little piece of spring steel that comes off the back, and this would actually advance the cylinder to the next chamber. So yeah, that actually broke. But I guess we'll just get started. What you're going to want to do to start with is get a regular flathead screwdriver and take off the grip screws, take off the grips. Try to keep it in frame for this most part, but okay. This gun was checked, safety checked before, so don't get too worried about that. Put this back in here so it doesn't get lost. Set that to the side. So now that you have your grips off, you're going to want to remove the two screws at the rear of the gun, right by the hammer there. It's nice to have a set of these small jeweler's screwdrivers, but I don't believe it's necessary. You won't need all of them. Okay, I'm just going to keep it in a... I like to keep them in a little cups just so I can keep track and don't lose any of them. Okay, now that you have those rear screws in there, you can go ahead and move down to these two directly behind your trigger guard, and then there's one in front of it too. You're going to want to press down because there is a spring pushing up on that. That's actually your loading gate spring. So just remove these two rear screws first. Should magnetize those. Now you got the front screw. Okay, now you will see when you take this off, that just comes right off. And set that aside. And you got a spring right here for your loading gate. Put that in there. And then you have this little part right there. You want to make sure you don't lose that. Okay. Then your loading gate will come out. Take out your cylinder. You'd actually take out your cylinder beforehand, but as you probably know, you would push on this and just pull out your cylinder. Like I said, you should usually do that before, but I forgot. So your loading gate comes out. That over there. And now you're getting to the more detailed portion. Your next step is going to be this screw right here that holds in your hammer. Okay, there's that. You are going to want to be careful once you start getting towards this part, because there is spring tension on some of these parts. Okay, now what you can go ahead and do is take out the screw for your trigger. Don't remove it completely. There's a little trick that'll help you prevent yourself from losing parts, because there is pressure on here. What you're going to want to do is get a small screwdriver or a punch, one that fits in the hole, and go ahead and just push that through there to work as a punch, so that you don't actually lose your parts. It's not really required, but it just helps. Find it easier to use my hands at times. Okay. Take out your trigger right there. And then you have your part down here. You're going to have to take out the spring here for your trigger. Okay. As you can see, it just comes apart completely. You got a spring there, and there you go. Now at this point, you would see that you would normally have this part up in here. I actually don't have that in there because I disassembled this before and went ahead and looked to see how it all went together. So I'm going to go ahead and put that in real quick, and then we'll get to the reassembly. Alright, we're back again now that I fumbled with that and finally got that part in correctly. What we're going to go ahead and do is just reassemble the way we disassembled. Basically follow the same steps and it should be pretty easy. Go ahead and place this straight back in here. Once again, it comes in handy to have a punch or something else to align your holes and put everything back together. Put your trigger back in. Your trigger screw. And screw that back down quick. Alright, you got your trigger back on there. And now what you're going to want to do is put this spring back on. And you got to make sure you do it correctly or you will not have any tension on your trigger. You've got a flat side and then a bent side to this little spring piece. And you want to make sure you just go ahead and lay that on the top of the trigger there. Just screw that screw back down. This little screw can be tricky. Alright, there you go. Now you see you got tension on your trigger. It's good to go. Alright, now what you're going to want to do is put your hammer back in. And you're going to start with your hammer downwards like this, because there's little grooves there and you need to make sure that this goes back in there. So what you do is start it downward and then just work it in like so. You can get your hole lined up there and put your hammer screw back in. Alright, we're good to go. good there. Now what we're going to do is go put our loading gate back together. Put in the actual gate first. Just pops right in there. Then you got this little plunger there. You're going to want to make sure you put the rod facing up so that it captures your spring there. Your spring goes in there. Grab in. This all back together here. This can be a rather tricky part just because you got that spring pushing back. So just go ahead and push down with your thumb in between your trigger guard there, just to get rid of some of that tension. You've got a smaller screw and then two bigger screws. Just put your smaller screw in front there and tighten that down first. Not all the way. Tighten them all down later. Okay. Got that down. Tighten them all up. Just to make sure they didn't come loose. And then you're going to want to put your two screws back in there. Trying to scratch up your finish too much. There you go. Put your grips back on. Your stocks, whatever you want to call them. So nice and tight. Go put our cylinder back in. Open our loading gate. And place it back in. Place our rod back in. And you're back in action. So, this has been my complete disassembly and reassembly of the Heritage Rough Rider. Thanks for watching, and subscribe if you want, but alright, see ya.